Thanks for joining us for Turn the Page with Paige, brought to you by the Goddard School. I'm your host, Paige Hulsey. In this series, we love to learn the story behind the stories that children are enjoying by introducing you to the local authors that make those works of fiction come to life. Zoey Lyndon is desperately trying to fit in after moving to St. Louis from Philadelphia. Things are off to a rocky start, but they quickly turn around once she joins the science club. The Zoey Lyndon series, written by St. Louis author Micheal Anderson, introduces readers ages 8 to 11 about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Author Micheal Anderson joins us in studio. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Paige.
So tell me where you got the idea for this series.
So a few years ago, when we first relocated here from the East Coast, I was embarking upon a milestone birthday. I was turning 50 years old. My kids were in college, and I was just kind of feeling like, who am I now? So I came up with a 50 before 50 list, and I blogged about all of these unique experiences. And in blogging about these experiences, I reignited my passion for writing and discovered, like, oh my gosh, I love this. Like, why did I ever stop writing? And that's where the stories were born. My daughters read all of the Junie B. Jones series, Amelia Bedelia, but all of those stories did not have representation in them. They didn't have girls or kids who looked like my daughters. And so this was the series that I wish was available for my daughters. And so now I can bring that to children today, and I love that.
That's a beautiful gift that you're giving to other children. And I also love how you started something new at that time in your life. It's never too late to start something new.
Not at all.
That's a great lesson for both children and adults.
Exactly.
All right, so in the book, or in the series, there are 4 books. I want to start where the series starts, with Zoey's big move to the loo. What does she experience that you think resonates so much with young readers?
So I think even if you don't move across the state or, across the country, kids can resonate with starting a new school or starting a new activity and wanting to fit in. I mean, that's a huge thing. And so for Zoey coming here and not having any friends, it was very traumatic for her, and so she really desperately wanted to fit in, and so I think kids resonate with that in the story.
You're right. It doesn't have to be a physical move, even joining a new soccer team, a new math club. I remember that feeling of just wanting to have a friend.
Right, you want to fit in.
Yeah. Okay, the newest release is Crush Chronicles. What happens as Zoey tries to navigate life at Briar Ridge Elementary?
So in the Crush Chronicles, this is the 4th book in the series. And so she has definitely earned her confidence. So at the beginning of the series, she was kind of lacking, but now she is confident in who she is. She has her friends. And so this series introduces crushes, so that first epic crush. There's also STEM, so we introduce coding. Each book introduces a different discipline, and this is coding, and you just get to get familiar with her family and her friends and the dynamic that's happening at home and at school.
Zoey growing up a little bit, maybe.
She is, absolutely.
Which one is your favorite? Is it like picking a favorite child?
You kind of, yeah. You don't really want to say that, so because this is not a child, I will say,
okay.
Before the Crush Chronicles, Sticky Finger Bandit was my favorite, which was book number 2. But the Crush Chronicles is my newest, and I just feel like there's so much happening. It's fast-paced. There's something for boys and girls. One of my favorite characters is, in fact, one of the little boys, and he likes to tell jokes, knock-knock jokes, and so, I mean, they're pretty funny, actually. I mean, for a 4th and 5th grader, these are some pretty good jokes.
And that's a good point. These aren't just books for girls.
No,
right?
not at all. Yeah. Not at all.
Well, on your website, you have a really great resource. It's like a reading guide that teachers, I guess, could incorporate in their classroom. I want to hear more about the tools or skills that reading guide can help students practice, or even just going through your books. I guess people at home could use that guide too.
Right. So I'm really proud of the teacher's guide, because it is a tool that teachers can bring into the classroom, tie in their own curriculum. It covers state standards, but especially for the reading and comprehension. And so in the guide, it covers each chapter, enforcing that comprehension, and at the very back of the guide is a hands-on science experiment. So the first book might be edible DNA, or building bridges and bridge structures with spaghetti and marshmallows, or I think the other one is elephant's toothpaste. So there's always a science aspect to the STEM teacher's guide as well.
Great creative ideas. You're doing the homework for the teachers, the parents. They don't have to create the activity.
Making it easy, right?
Yeah, that's great. I understand, and you mentioned that these books are inspired by your own daughters who are now professionals in science, technology, engineering, and math. What do they think about this series?
So they're funny because they will say, so definitely they inspired the series. So my youngest daughter's name is Sydney. Zoe's character is inspired by her, and my older daughter is Caitlin, and Jasmine is in the book. That's the sister, and her character is inspired by my daughter. And so often when they're reading and proofing some of the stuff, they'll say, "Mom, I would not do that." This is, first of all, this is not you. This is not you. Okay, this is a made-up character. But so they will often say that, you know, I wouldn't do that, or, you know, like they call themselves Zoe and Jasmine. I'm like, no, this is not a true story.
But they're invested.
They are.
They're invested in these characters.
They are. So, and in the fourth book, so now everyone has cell phones, right? So there's group chats, and so there's texting, and my daughter was reading, and she was like, "Mom, oh my God, this is so cringy. Can I just change this? Like, no one says this stuff." And so I really like that she was able to do that, because now when kids read it, it sounds really relevant and relatable.
Yeah. You've done so much already. Any more in the works?
Yes, so I have, I think, one more book in this series before I move on to something else, and I'm hoping that it will be released around Christmas time.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
All right, you'll have to share those updates. Before you go, though, I want to hear your recommendation for another children's book from another author.
Awesome. So I'm a historical buff, and so I think since we're still in Black History Month, the book that I would recommend is 5 Things About Dragonflies by author L.B. Ann. And this is a historical fiction, and we hear a lot about the Underground Railroad and how during that time of slavery, people were running north. Well, we don't necessarily hear about people running to Spanish Florida. And so this story is about that in the Black Seminole, and so it's a really inspiring educational story, and so that would be my recommendation.
Thank you for sharing that recommendation, and thank you for sharing your series as well.
Thank you.
It's great to learn about it. It's already making a big impact.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
I want to thank you for joining us as well. Thank you for being here today. We hope you'll tune in again next time for Turn the Page with Paige.